This is a podcast which does not shy away from difficult and vulnerable topics. The content is of an adult nature and we do swear at times.
Welcome to the Autistic Licensed Podcast. I'm Shauna and I'm in Carrickfergus in Northern Ireland.
I'm Leo in London.
We invite you to listen in on our conversations as we experiment with unmasking in an autistic space. We talk about what it means to discover we're autistic as adults, especially with established careers as therapists. We want people to know that autistic therapists exist and to broaden the conversation about neurodiversity. You're so welcome to join us, whoever you are and wherever in the world you are. We hope you'll find something of interest and connection here.
Where is that yucca tree? Where is that normally that's on your table?
It's normally over by the window, but it was so hot coming in that I felt like it had to be like watered twice a day, and it wasn't looking happy. So I moved it back from the window a little bit because we've just had our heat wave for the last 3 days and it's passing through and it will be away tomorrow.
Should we say hello, actually?
We can say hello.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Sometimes we just come in mid-sentence, actually, don't we?
I think normally we do that. Hello, lovely listeners. It's the middle of July. And yes, Northern Ireland has just had its 3-day heat wave and normal service of rain will be resuming tomorrow.
Yes. And we've talked a number of times about our narrow band of tolerance of temperature.
Yes.
And it has been exceeded for both of us, for down here a number of times this summer already.
Oh, weeks and weeks for you.
Yes. Today it got to 30, but in this flat it didn't. I think there was a bit of a breeze, and so it was bearable. I didn't have to sit next to the air conditioning, which I have been doing mostly for the last few weeks during the day. It's been. My office is a sweatbox, as we've talked about before.
Gross.
Roasting.
Yes.
So currently in June, July 2025, that's when my parents' birthdays are. And they are both turning 80 this year. Dad turned 80 a couple of weeks ago. Mum turns 80 in a couple of weeks' time. Mm-hmm. And they had a joint birthday party at a venue near where we live in North London, which was last night. And it was really lovely. It was really well attended. People had a really, really nice time. Sensorily, to bring the autistic thread into this, it was a challenge for me. It was uncomfortable and it did take lots of energy. It's not that I did anything, but there was a live band that was practicing. There were lots of people talking simultaneously, and regular listeners or long-term listeners will know that is a challenge for me, as I can hear all the individual conversations rather than some kind of blended background noise. And I had my Flare Calms with me, which are the little silicone earplugs that let sound in, but they take the top edge off, which is often quite helpful for speech around and eating noises and the kinds of things that misophonia can make very difficult. They didn't really cut it once the thing had got going. And then I remembered that I had noise-cancelling earbuds in my bag, so I put them in. But I felt a bit mean because it's a difficult thing to be very visibly kind of blocking out the sound. And I don't know how happy, unhappy, distressed that I actually looked. I really have no idea about that, but I suspect I didn't look massively happy, and I feel mean about that. I feel very mean about that. I would like to be able to mingle and mask now. Yes, exactly. That's what I know that I was doing for all those years. But I think one thing because it was, there wasn't a kind of opportunity for me to duck in and out because for various reasons. And it has made me realise, especially how, I've been sleeping on and off all day today. Yeah. And it's Sunday, by the way, listeners. It's not that I've been supposed to be doing other things. And it has made me realise, okay, I actually really can't do those things anymore. And I think it will be easier maybe for me to kind of justify or explain that if there is in the future kind of obligation or pressure to go to a big loud thing.
Like their 90th.
Like their 90th. Yes, I've got 10 years to prepare the groundwork for why I can't do it.
I think, though, it was also because of the lead up to it. It wasn't just the event itself, because there was some sort of taxiing and some extra things you didn't necessarily know about in advance. And then there was the fact that your phone was being used, which was part of why
I was
you
there.
couldn't necessarily duck
Yes,
out
I was
and
in charge of
disappear.
piping in the recorded music when the band wasn't playing, and yeah, so I didn't think it through. I did also have my laptop with me, and if I'd have had the venue link my laptop instead of my phone, then I could have actually kind of ducked in and out, but because it was my phone, and actually, as it turned out, because the chatter was so incredibly loud, you couldn't hear the music being piped in at all beyond the first half hour.
Oh dear.
And when I realised that, then I did duck out for the odd 10 minutes a couple of times.
Yes.
But and also though, why these things now? Maybe this is kind of familiar to a lot of our neurokin. I know that it is familiar because of the amount of contact I have with them, neurokin. That is that that kind of overwhelming environment, sound wise, is it can be very uncomfortable and maybe unbearable. But there's the social aspect as well. And I don't necessarily, in the right environment, I don't have that difficulty with social battery generally. And it was, I'm 58 today. Not today, I mean as of today, but I will become 59 in some weeks' time. Okay, let me try that one again. I overcomplicated that a little. I put a long tail on that kite, didn't I? I am 58, and so I've had lots of time with, obviously, my parents, my sister, but also the people who were there. These are all people who've been around for most of my life. And
since you were a baby.
Since I was a baby, and I don't get to see them actually very often. And so there were lots of people I would love to have spent time with and actually had conversations with and catch-ups. And that just wasn't, it really wasn't doable. When it had all died down and people, a lot of people had left and all the sound was turned off, then there were a few people left, and that was really the loveliest part of the evening, that last 10 minutes as we were kind of packing up. I got to see a few people who I hadn't seen, and that was really lovely. There's a thing, goodbyes in my family and culture, I suppose, take a very, very long time. So it's quite traditional to, if you're not involved or enthusiastic about that process, to just sit down and not leave until the other people are actually out of the door, because it can, and I think it was about a 20-minute thing when the last few people were kind of saying goodbye. And of course, and they'd also said no presents. Everybody brought gifts. So it was a ton of stuff to go in the boot to take back.
Yes. And were they happy?
Very. Yes, they were. They had a lovely time. I got to see them dancing together, which is almost unheard of.
Wow.
And it was very sweet. Everybody seemed to be very happy to be there. People had come, from all over the country, to celebrate with them. And it was, I'm sure they would label it a success and are happy with it. And I hope that my kind of grumpy presence, if that's what it was wasn't too obvious or distracting.
You were there, and it was difficult to manage the sensory overload.
Yes.
And you absolutely did your best, and you weren't going out of your way to be difficult. I don't know that anybody can fault anyone else for going through that, and see that as grumpy or difficult or whatever.
I hope not.
Whatever it was that you said.
But it did underline for me that can't happen again. Mm-hmm. I can't be in that environment for 6 hours. Mm-hmm. Or maybe at all, but certainly not for any extended period of time without having the choice of, being somewhere else. And that was kind of useful for me. And of course, I've been to many, many events like that through my life. And and again, it's this thing, and I know it's one of the common experiences post-diagnosis as an adult that people will say, but you were fine with this before. Mm-hmm. You seem to really enjoy yourself. And, much of that is actually true, but you don't realize the extent of the masking. But when you do, it is way worse. It really is.
Okay, because I guess a lot of those people also, because they've known you since you were tiny, would have seen you in a lot of those of environments. Because that's your
mostly
family,
where a lot of them would have seen me at all.
Culture, yes. I guess, what you grew up with. See, I always hated those kind of things. So even though I didn't know it was due to being autistic, I would have always found them excruciating. So it doesn't feel like it's any different now, but I definitely don't, because it used to feel like I didn't have so much of a choice. But then I started to assert my choice quite young, actually. And then I think I kind of hated it, but had to, the way sometimes you have to do conferences or work things, but I always knew it was difficult. And then now, since being in private practice and also so much stuff being online, I don't think I ever have to do those kind of things. And I guess I've never been there was some big family gatherings when I was a child, but I don't think it was as extensive in any way as yours would have been, or the extended gatherings with family friends that had been around since your parents were at college together and things like that. I never had anything like that.
What kind of things were going on then? What did they look like? Your gatherings, the things that you found difficult?
Nothing like what you went through. I just mean 10 people being in a room or something.
Yeah,
but that was too much, and it's still too much.
Yes.
But not the big, party kind of things that you would have gone, that you would have been used to, or anything like what happened last night wouldn't have really been something that would have really happened, thankfully, in my in with the people around me. And then once I got to being a teenager and going out to things, I wouldn't have chosen to go. I couldn't handle nightclubs or anywhere that was really busy or really full or really loud, so I just didn't do it. So yeah, I think it's not really different for me now than it ever was.
So I've certainly experienced the value of a zero demand day the next day. It might be the first time when it was absolutely necessary. I could not have done something or gone somewhere today. And I have slept.
Yes.
Properly, not a little bit more than napping through the day.
Okay. Yeah.
And also it's been, it's the Wimbledon men's tennis final was this afternoon and finished, only about 40 minutes ago at the time of recording. And that was actually quite nice because it was, tennis matches, if you know about tennis matches, can last a long time. This one actually wasn't that long for a tennis match. It was about 3.5 hours, but it was nice because it didn't require constant concentration. Why couldn't I think of the word concentration?
Because it's hard to concentrate.
Exactly. That's it. That's it right there. That's a self-referential, that was meta, I suppose, wasn't it? Not being able to concentrate enough to remember the word concentration. So I could doze off, and I slept for bits and then woke up and I saw the end of it, and that was very good. And I'm also aware that tomorrow is a long day and a big day that had lots of anticipation behind it, because I'm going to drive from North London.
You probably didn't They probably blocked that out. I just did quite an impressive drum roll. Not to you, but impressive to me. This is the big news.
I'm driving up to Suffolk tomorrow to the estate agent, letting agent, to sign a lease on a house and to pick up the keys. Mm-hmm. And that's tomorrow. Not moving right now, but tomorrow is also when I will plan when the move will be, because I need to know that. My clients need to know that. My friends and family need to know that. Probably in the next couple of weeks is what I'm imagining. But I'll get to go into the house, I hope, all going well, and do a little bit more measuring and just absorbing it, and not, I've been in there twice for 2 viewings over the last month, and they have been very quick. So the first, probably 10 minutes on the first one, maybe 20, 30 on the second one when I met the landlord.
Yes.
So it'd be nice to, and I've done
on your own.
Not on my own.
Not really with the time to just go
and just fiddle about with things and look
and
and take lots of pictures. And I've got myself I've got a little task list for things to find out there. But I've been doing, since finding out that the house is, that I'm going to be leasing the house, there have been lots of bits of planning that I've done, lots of list makings and floor plans and things that I've drawn up, and signing up for services in advance, etc. So I feel that it won't feel brand new in that way. And I think but that's important, isn't it? Because part of that, it looks very autistic. Oh, look at him. He's making lots of lists. He's getting organized. He's getting data together. But even though, yes, that in itself is definitely an autistically satisfying load of stuff to do, but it is also about trying to make something predictable that otherwise might be overwhelmingly new. And so it's nice to know what bits of information I need, or the fact that there's, what the services look like, and I've got spreadsheets for things as well. And it's nice to go in to that new environment and have all the excitement of the actual environment and the fantasizing and all of that with a bit of structure around the practicalities in advance.
That's right.
But there's the idea of amassing things. So if you're going to move, like I am, that's that really highlights it. How much stuff have I got? A lot. Yes. And how much do I actually want? Well, as little as possible. Yeah. And I know that previously, in kind of years and decades gone by as an adult, that has been problematic for me. I have found it very difficult to not actually to get rid of stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's not that I would have attachments to things that I couldn't let anything go.
Yes.
Which is more towards that area of hoarding, really. Yes. But it might have looked like that in certain parts of my life, because it's actually the task of going through things and emptying things. That part is very overwhelming to think about, and that in itself is just the block. So it isn't actually, oh no, I need that and I need that. It's just the thought of the task, it's just this looming, enormous, rolling boulder of difficulty, which I largely dealt with a few years ago. And so I don't have as much, but obviously now I'm moving, then I have to rethink all of that stuff again. And it got me, I've had a few conversations about this with various people, various autistic people. And there is a bit of commonality in here that I started to make sense of. And I started to think of it. So there's the task part, which is overwhelming. This can mean that we end up having lots of stuff around us that we actually don't want. Just because of the overwhelm and block of how enormous or how the fantasy of dealing with it is overwhelmingly enormous. But then I also got to thinking about like transitional objects and, you know, the cartoon version of that, to explain it, is that, you know, a kid perhaps whose parents have split up and, you know, they go between the two houses regularly, and that obviously can be disturbing and distressing, and so maybe they would have an object. It might be maybe a teddy bear, something like that, that's always with them, and that eases the transition from one place to another, because they've got something that's permanent and common in both, that links the two environments. So that would be a transitional object. Yeah. And then you've got the idea that not only is the idea of the task of sorting things out and getting rid of things, that is overwhelming, but you've also got a difficulty with transitions just generally for so many autistic people. And so I got to thinking about, and it just resonated with me, and it resonated with a couple of people I've talked to about this as well, that maybe it's everything. I mean, things, objects, material things, maybe they all become versions of transitional objects as well. Yeah. That also makes it very, very difficult to, you know, and I just thought that feels right, even though I can't think of many practical examples of that. So it's not about transition of place to place, but it is about a transition from one environment to another, because you are by definition going to change it. And by holding on to things around you, even when they're out of sight, like my famous Doom cupboard, which is now not as bad as it was, but it still exists there, and it is going to have to be dealt with in the next couple of weeks, that becomes consistent. And so it's not just, as I say, it's not about a transitional object taking you from one thing to another. It's just about the permanence. So maybe this is object permanence as well. It comes into this, that is safe, even though it's unpleasant. And I just wonder if so rather than an attachment thing, and I don't necessarily mean attachment styles, but I mean that more toward the hoarding thing, where everything has a personal significance and it becomes difficult to let it go. I don't really care about 90% of things that I have, but their presence is consistent. And that is important as an autistic person, just as transitions are difficult. So I just wonder if, for those of us who do experience that discomfort, of I don't like it, there's too much stuff, but also the idea of it is really, really, it's paralyzing for a lot of the time to go through and get rid of, is also there with the transition thing, if you're moving like I am, and also just the permanence of all of those things is perversely comforting. It's probably, as usual, a much simpler way of explaining that. And I think I had it when my brain wasn't as scrambled.
Maybe you did, or maybe it's something that hasn't yet just like synthesized together. So you've got something and it hasn't just come just yet. Because I really like going through and sorting things out and streamlining stuff. I might not do it absolutely often enough, but I've got good kind of skills in that. So even like, you know, this morning I was sorting out Lana's clothes actually with her, and she detests that. She has absolute paralysis about anything like that. And there's a whole pile of other things that interact with that. But, you know, I know that she cannot do that. And I actually do enjoy things like that. And we'll do them in different rooms, and I'll sort out cupboards and I'll do things like that whenever I feel like it. It's always just when I feel like it. It's not like it's on some kind of schedule. And it's not like it's done perfectly, or it's like minimalist or anything like that. But I have the skills to do that, and always have had the skills to do that. So maybe I'm not autistic, but
well, no, but the skills to do that are very autistic as well, though. The sorting through and organising, that is also autistic.
That's autistic. But
when I get to do it, I love it. When I'm actually in it, it is. I love it. Yeah. But
that was a kind of a wee tangent. But I think that there's something about, you know, I was talking before about even offices. Like every office that I've had, therapy office I've had, this is the third one, they've kind of had the same character, like they kind of look the same. There's been consistent things in them. You know, obviously the chairs move, the stand trays move, the same units move. I'm not somebody that wants to get new stuff. I like to move everything and recreate it. And then if somebody comes to my office who's moving with me, it'll still look like my office. So I think I still need to have lots of things that are the same. And even like when I did all that redecoration, even though, yes, I moved away some of the wedding stuff and some of the coupley stuff, I still kept everything else. Yes. I will never, ever transform a space where I'll get new furniture, new chairs, and new walls all at the same time. Like, it has to have loads of consistency and only part of it be changed. Even if, you know, of course this is, well, not of course, but for me it's financial. I can't afford to just transform a room. And I don't think I would want to, for maybe some of the reasons that you're talking about, because there's too much caught up in the objects. And I also, I do know it's hard to know, is this autistic or is it also just a value system and I'm using things until they're done and, you know, only having stuff I really, really like. So why would I get rid of it until it's totally bashed or totally threadbare? So I know that there's probably things like that in it too. And yet there is also, for me, probably lots of comfort in packing the things up that you use and then using them in another house, and then they serve their time there, and then they go. So things are not all going at the same time or being renewed at the same time. But that's, I don't know, is that transition of, I think it is transition of.
It is. Oh no, it is.
Yes. Or, you know, so much of the stuff would just go with.
You know, in a way, I've got, in my move, this office is my transitional object.
It is, because it's all going to be replicated. Because
this is a square room, and everything in it I put together over the last few years. It's all you know, new, and it's going to a similar shape, similar sized room in Suffolk,
which you were really careful to make sure that you could find.
That like was a part of it.
Part of
it. Was
where will my office be, and will I be able to fit all the off? And it will. So I think the office was the first thing that was configured on your. Design studio.
You're right. It was, because it's the one thing that I can actually kind of replicate. And, you know, I'm going to somewhere, it's an unfurnished house. So everything that is going to be in there, I will bring or get. And then there's some practical thing. I mean, obviously there are some personal effects, and it's obvious, I think, largely which of those will come with me. But then there is the practical thing. I mean, there isn't enough bedding, for example, to split in two. There's just enough that it gets used and ordered, etc. So there, you know, and there's quite a lot of that. But there are, you know, all my coffee machine things will obviously come with me, and there are certain things that are part of my autistic rituals that happen daily, that will come with me, and they will also be comforts, because they are things that I have contact with every single day at the same time. I do the same thing, and so part of that is a kitchen-y thing, and part of that is a bathroom-y thing. So there will be some, as much as possible, kind of transitional objects.
I've just had some other thoughts about transitions, because like whenever like I go on holiday, and the best way for me to go on holiday is if I'm in a car and I can actually drive to. So like when Lana and I have been away, we like literally take all our own food and our own brands. And the only things we don't take are the things that won't travel well, that we need to buy. And then we have to stop in a Tesco's to buy the right brands. But even things like cooking in advance, and then I'll take like I'll take the stuff that I've cooked in advance with the right sauces and things and carry and transport them so that they're in our containers. We take our own cutlery, we take all of that stuff so that it's the same. We take our own refillable water bottles. All of that stuff gets taken, because that just feels familiar. That's just how you eat.
Yes.
And even whenever, there's more about that, but I don't want to go too much into all of that because it feels like it's getting away from the topic.
No, I don't think it is actually at all. We're both talking and comparing our equivalents of what we need to be around us to feel safe, particularly when we're moving into the unknown or we're moving into something new or creating something new. And a holiday is just as valid with that.
A holiday is valid, but, it's also making me think about a conversation I had this morning with my next door neighbour. And we were talking about, the plants and the new tree and things like that. And they've been here for 30 years since the houses went up. And she's known all the neighbours, people before me, things like that. And she's got a beautiful garden. And, she was saying it's taken all that time for her to make it like that. Cause sometimes I'm like, there's always something and I'm not on top of this and, things like that. And, my point was, so like we were talking about how, the person who owned the house before had moved, she'd emigrated actually, so she couldn't take the lovely plants that she had in her pot before she left, so she left them here. And I hadn't been used to having a garden before because we only had a yard before we moved here, but I could see that, these plants in the pots needed to be looked after. So I kind of tended to them a little bit, didn't know anything about how to do that. But then there came a time when I had said to Ricky, can you move them into the front garden? Because they're getting a bit too big for the pots. And so he moved them to the front garden. They've all done really well in the front, apart from one, which I was actually put round the back. But anyway, I felt like that was caretaking for her plants. And then I started to refill her pots with my new flowers. And then over the years, I've kind of tended to them and I've got quite a lot of them. And every so often one doesn't survive. And I always feel really sad it hasn't survived, but then I replace it with more. And I have part of this is now the more and more I talk about it, I see how autistic it is. I will go over the history of it. So whenever I'm out tending to my plants and talking to them, I'll be like, yeah, I think you came 3 years ago and you were one of the originals. And now there's absolutely none in the pots that used to belong to the neighbour. They're all in the ground or they've passed on. But I know all the ones in the pots. I know when they came to me and where I got them from, and some of them have used to share a pot and then have moved into a pot of their own because they've got a bit bigger. And one of them moved into the ground. 2 of them moved into the ground last year, actually. So I just know what's happened over the last 5 years and how all these plants have moved on. And it reminds me of what I used to know about Lana's toys. And whenever she would grow out of things and I would carefully decide, is there someone I can give those to? Are they sentimental to be kept? There was a few that were sentimental to be kept. There was some that were to be kept in the house for maybe the odd time that a child would visit. There was some that were to be kept for foster children because I've had a vision of fostering for nearly 40 years.
Yes.
And but it reminds me of I have always known, you got that. I've been able to say to her, you got that at Christmas and such bought that to you, bought that for you. And I'd have these memories of her playing with things and but they were they were transitional objects for her. She was a totally autistic kid who would have always carried the doll she was playing with, like little tiny figures she was playing with. She wasn't a doll girl, but little tiny figures she was playing with. Whatever one she was playing with would have gone with her to the next place she went to and then come back. And there was always transitions right the way through. But I've gone off on loads of tangents there, but there's something about the value of things, not for a hoarding thing, not to keep them static. It's not just to hoard them for the sake of it. It's not to keep them in the same place.
Nope.
It's not to have them for the same purpose. They can all be moving and they can all be being used or just be beautiful and, but I'm connected to them, and without them, then there's something not as familiar or not as there's something about nesting as well with the plants, and there's something but it's not nesting actually. No, they're always in movement, but they're always moving.
Well, some of them are, and there's specific categories, aren't there? And what you've just made me think of is two things. So one, we talked a long time ago, over a year ago here, about our cars and the kit, the stuff that we carry with us in our cars. Yes. That this is also kind of like a bit of portable home and familiarity. Yeah. And we do think of things, I do anyway, certainly on a practical level. I should have this. I'm often known for people I know as always having a particular thing with me that they might need. It's like a be prepared thing. However, I think you're right. This leaks over into what we're talking about familiarity and safety and having the things around you. That I've got a backpack, which is usually what I take with me when I go anywhere. I don't ever go anywhere just with things in my pockets. Yeah. And it's a lovely, on the very rare occasions that I do, which might be round the corner to the shops, it's lovely not to have a backpack on me. But I have a backpack. Then I have a shoulder bag also, which I use less often because it holds less and therefore I'm going to have less things available. But the core things that are in my backpack are exactly replicated in my shoulder bag. I have two identical double glasses cases, each with a pair of reading glasses and a pair of sunglasses in. The meds and things that I might need while I'm out are exactly replicated between the two.
In both bags?
Yes. I have two. Well, actually, I have three sets for the very core things, because I also have my bag that I exclusively use when I come and see you, which is my underseat Ryanair size bag. Now, that also, so I never have to transfer things. Or which bag am I taking? Must make sure I've got my sunglasses. Yeah. They all have their own sets of the same thing. Even if I never take notes in a notebook because I've got a mobile phone, but they all have identical little leather notebooks with identical Parker pens in them as well.
Funny.
And I feel safer. I just feel safer. And there's a sunflower lanyard in each of them as well. That's probably a more useful and practical to always have. I absolutely don't need 95% of the things that I carry with me. I know that. And of course, many of those, there's sunglasses and a set of meds and certain things in the car as well. And that's how I get most places anyway. So most of the time I've got two sets of everything because I've got whatever bag I'm carrying and the stuff that's in the car. All to say that it's a good realization to add to, okay, it's autistic and I feel safe when I've got my things around me, but also to say it's not just about the practicality of it and the organizational autistic parts of that experience. There is also something about permanence and consistency in and of itself makes me feel safe.
Because I have never had like that replicated like that, but I've always had, and I suppose it's just a stereotype, of women have a handbag. Yeah. And I have a backpack. I can't be just carrying a handbag. I always use one that goes, on my back.
That's right.
But it's like, it's got everything in it, and I don't leave the house without it. I'll grab like chewing gum and I think that's practical, but it's also probably transition and, and needs constant replenish it, or water bottle. But a lot of people do that though. That's not really autistic.
But the distress around
not having
needing, yes, exactly, probably is, and that's brought me to a couple of things. So to one now and one historic. The now one is the bag thing. So I realise now that the reason, so I've, all my adult life, I've had so many shoulder bags and bags because I've always been in search of the perfect one. I've got a cupboard. There are many in the cupboard now, and they're all really great. But actually, if I think about it, it's the backpack that I universally use and have done now for about 5 years. The shoulder bag was an attempt by another part of my brain to not carry so much stuff.
Yes.
I never use it. I just never use it. And it's so much.
Well, then you need to get rid of that.
Yes, I probably do. And just say, well, this is the backpack. I have the backpack. That's what I use.
Like what I do.
Yeah. It's crazy. I want to ask the listeners a question now then. I'm now quite interested. How many of our neurokin who listen, so autistic adults that are listening, do not carry a bag of some kind with them when they go out? And because I'm suspecting it's very few, if any. But I wonder if there are people, I wonder if there are autistic adults about who are okay just leaving the house with just their keys, whatever.
It was really funny because whenever Lana and I went to a concert in a park, it was Alanis Morissette recently, and we had our backpacks on, of course, and people obviously kept shoving to try and get past, and then they kept knocking our bags, and that made me realise that other people did not have bags, because obviously concert etiquette is not to wear a backpack.
Well, I can't imagine that.
Not what you do, and so I realised it was actually our fault rather than that people were being that people were doing something wrong by keeping knocking our bags. But even though the car was parked, walking distance away, we parked the car and then we walked to the park where the concert was. I would not in a million years have felt secure to have just put a couple of things in my pocket. I would have always taken my bag, and she would just always take her bag. But no one else had. Well, no, some did because I was looking, but very few people had bags. It was obviously not concert etiquette. You just put if you've got car keys, you would obviously have them, and your wallet and your phone, or maybe your wallet would be on your phone, and that would be it, which makes an awful lot of sense, but not to me. Even though it's not practical, I would feel like I needed my bag.
Absolutely.
And of course we need EpiPens with us, so one of us has to have a bag, but we didn't probably need everything that was in our bags.
Right. Yeah. So yes, I'm sure we are the majority experience within our neurokin. autisticlicense@gmail.com. Let us know. I really would like to know.
Yes. And did anybody else see Alanis Morissette? And what did you think of the concert? I was not in a big crowd, by the way. I was, with lots of space around us, but still people were knocking the bag on the way through. And Lana and I went to the concert that I talked about in a recent...
Yes.
Well, I think it hasn't come out, actually. But there's one that will probably come out before this, when I was talking about going to Glasgow with Lana to see Lana Del Rey. So, yes, we
Does she
went
only go to
that.
concerts of artists with Lana in their name? Well, it's Alanis. Okay, I suppose if you're going to be nitpicky, it's not Alana, it's Alanis.
No, she had never. This was Lana Del Rey was her first concert.
Yes.
So I see what you're saying. But no, that was. She's going to see the Fontaines in August. So that
Fontaines DC.
Oh yeah, I think they're called Fontaines DC.
My
I always
cousin
used to call them DC Fontaines, but they are called Fontaines DC.
They're great. I love them. My cousin does their lighting. Will be on tour with them.
Oh,
and
really?
it's just been on tour with them, in fact. Yes.
Okay. Yes, it's in August, so it doesn't have a Alana in the name. So
I wonder if one of them's called Alan.
Yeah, it's a bit of a concert summer for her. There's another one in September, but I can't remember what they're called. It's nice to be 16. To start to do these kind of things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There was a nice arc there, though. We kept coming back to things and transitions. And it's a really big deal.
Yeah, we started talking about things we take out of the house, but really, before that, it was about, what was it about before that? You talked about...
Well, see, it was the move.
It was
so
the move.
Recreating that.
I know, but you introduced it. We'd kind of given your news about, and then you introduced that you talked to some people about having stuff.
Yeah, that's right. It was about the difficulty of getting rid of stuff and whether I think one or two people have said to me recently, raised the question of, is this a hoarding thing? And then that developed into conversations about actually the process of zenning your environment or whatever it might be and reducing.
Yeah.
It was just the looming
thought
of it was paralyzing in some ways. But yeah, and then we went on to, but autistically, I actually really enjoy the actual process of doing it when I'm doing it, and organizing and filing and getting rid of. I've got really good at that, but it's getting over that hump. And then, of course, moving house and into somewhere empty and by myself is a whole expanded version of all of those things.
Well, I find I'm noticing that I really react to you saying getting rid of, and I think that is what helps me to do it. I never feel like I'm getting rid of something. I feel like I'm passing it on. And so I've always, and I think that's maybe why I've been able to do it, because then I can see it as, okay, I sort out the things that go to this clothes bank and things that go to this book bank and things that go to the charity shop. And with Lana's clothes, I could never just give them to anonymous people. It had to be people that I knew.
Right.
And so there's still some left that haven't been handed on, because it's never like just been this moment whenever somebody has had a kid that's been 5, when I've thought, I'll give you all my age 4 to 5 clothes. But most of them are gone for and it took like maybe 10 years to pass them on. And sometimes people would give them back to me, and then I would need to repass them on. So it never really felt like things had to be done really, really quickly. They just had to be done. They just had to be moved on in an ethical, good way.
Yes.
And that always felt different to me. So anything that I was sorting out, it wasn't to get rid of, to not have to look at anymore. It was to find it another home.
It makes it easier for me, since I'm B-Day grown up, and there is always a charity bag or a charity box for various shops that are local. That has definitely made it easier for me to get rid of. And that's become very important.
Can we change that?
No. The reason I've kept with get rid of is because there is this extra thing for you, which is for certain things that they don't actually go to anonymous people. That's still a good thing ethically, but there's something beyond ethics for certain things. Certain things for you that they actually need to go on and have a relationship with somebody that you're connected to in some way. And that's important. That's really important.
Yeah.
Because that isn't just a practical thing then, and it's not just a doing the right thing. It's actually something meaningful needs to be experienced with certain things, And I suppose I would have that too. If there's something there isn't just a purely practical or technical thing that I might want to pass on, then I will, there are people that I would offer it to first, because I would like them to have it specifically, even though it would be just as beneficial to whichever charity shop it would end up in, and do double good, because it would end up with somebody else and it would get paid for, and that would fund something.
Right. That's right.
It's nice. Right. It's nice.
Yes. But is that to do with the relationship with the objects as well? Like, probably. I could never just see a thing as a thing. I could never just see those clothes as those clothes. They always had the memories attached to, where she wore them or things like that.
Well, certainly, every time that I will do a clear out of a drawer or part of that cupboard or the whole thing at various things, where I will come across things that my niece made for me when she was little, as little arts and crafts. But I mean, and there are lots of them. There's absolutely no way that they could ever go. And and luckily there's not so much that I'm not able to keep them
that's
at all.
The problem
but if I was
with Lana's stuff, I have boxes and boxes and boxes, but over the time there was stuff that just had to go because there was far too much. But yes, I kept most of it.
And I mean, there would have been times when I wouldn't have been able to throw away Christmas and birthday cards at all. So I would have just had them all for years. And then when I did finally get to the big kind of clear out, then they all went, if they just said Merry Christmas, Leo, or Happy Birthday, Leo, and nothing else, and that they were bought, they could go and of course be recycled. So there was another thing that felt helpful. But if they were made, obviously they stayed, and if they had particular messages in them, then that just feels literally sacrilegious, actually, to destroy or get rid of. Because there's somebody's thoughts and wishes that were specific.
I know. And this ties in, and you might not be able to keep this but this ties into all those questions that I had, all these big questions that I had about all the stuff in your parents' house. Because whenever you were talking to me from there and you were showing me like some of the art and some of the stuff that was on the walls, and I have not, like in my family or in my experience, haven't really seen houses like that, and obviously they are artists and their friends are artists, so there's a lot of gifts and a lot of memories that are like encapsulated in all of that.
That increased dramatically yesterday, by the way. I'm
sure it did. And I was like, well, what's going to happen when they die? And like, where's all that stuff going to go? And, like, I just can't get my head around how anybody could sort through that kind of stuff. But I think that's the same kind of thing. That's the kind of way that maybe my brain, and maybe that's an autistic thing, works. Like, I saw that stuff and I was intrigued with that stuff and love hearing the story of all that stuff. But then very rapidly, this very practical, quite overwhelming
yes, I remember
thing
you
came to me, which was like, oh my goodness, what do you do when people like that die?
And that is another thread, actually, about amassing things that I think, again, for a lot of people, I'm not being neurospecific about this, actually, because I don't know, but a lot of people will amass those things because they're actually curating something about their lives that is supposed to be permanent. This is what I'm leaving the world. It's, I'm not really dying because all of this, there is there's an existential part of all of that. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's another layer of getting rid of things. And then also maybe why passing them along to somebody with connection is also helpful, because then you do continue to live. It is something about permanence and existentialist, anxiety. And
because I write. I don't write all the time in my journal, but I've got journals going back to 25. I would have had journals before that, but I got rid of my teenage journals. I wish I hadn't, but I did. But I had really, really good. I would love to have them. I don't have them, but I have journals from the age of 25, and I've got little stickers on them saying that I've had for ages, saying, giving instructions. If I die, this is who they've to go to. And they've been like changed over the years, and now they all say to Leilana whenever she's an adult. So like, if I was to die before she's an adult, you know, other people will be sorting things out. They'll come across this is what you do with this, and they have to be kept for her. And then she's going to start reading them when she's 25. She's already decided this, of course. I hope.
Oh, so she knows of their existence and that they're coming to her. That's amazing.
So like, hopefully I'll still be there when she's 25, because it's only 9 years away.
Yes,
but
we'll do our best.
Even if I'm there, or if I wasn't there, she wants to start reading them so that she's reading them at the same age.
Incredible.
And that's like passing on something, whether you're dead or not. And then once she's read them, they can be recycled. That's fantastic. It just feels like they're not really there forever. But the reason that they're being kept now is because I have a daughter who will be really interested to read them. But if it wasn't for her, I would probably have destroyed them. Because I thought about, I remember before, like, having like my closest friend, and then and then probably it just got replaced with Ricky. Although I knew he wouldn't particularly want to read them. And so I think I kept it with my closest friend. And then when I had a baby, when Nana came along, I thought, no, this is what I'm going to do. And so then the only reason that they're still, I think, here is because she'll have the choice.
That's very beautiful. And I think it's gender specifically beautiful. Assuming cisgender, you know, experience. You know, but that might change. But, you know, but I just came to the thought that I wonder if you'd have had a son. For me, at least, you telling me it wouldn't have quite felt the same. It would have been it would have been fantastic as well. But there's something about her being a woman at the age and kind of following your
Yes, but we like that.
You know?
And probably because she's autistic and we both like that idea.
Yes, she's
totally able to think about the idea that I might not be here and she'll be here without me. And even if I am still here, she'll still want to read what I was reading when I was 25, whenever she's 25. And
so there's a transition.
Yeah.
From your life to hers. You know, assuming that your lives follow the natural course of things and that you go first and that she carries on. But there's a beautiful crossfade transition of lives there. Oh, wow. Oh, that's fantastic. I didn't know any of that. That's just gorgeous.
Well, why would you do that?
That's gorgeous.
It's only coming up.
No. That's wonderful. Yeah. It's wonderful.
Do you want to see what I've been doing? Can you see down here? Can you see my buttons?
Oh, you are buttons, not sorting. Well, actually, maybe you are sorting.
I don't know if it's called. Well, I'm playing with my buttons anyway, and it's not sorting. No, it's not sorting, but there is a reason why certain ones are beside. All of them have to have a reason to be beside each other, and they have to. Every one of them has to touch on at different sides around their rims. So they're organised in such a way, even the ones that are not circular, they still have to do quite a lot of touching and balancing of
get that completely.
Other ones. And whenever they've all been placed one at a time, none of them, it wasn't that I just threw them all down and then sorted them. They all went one at a time, and then it kind of was created out of the centre, or slightly off centre. So yes, they all had a reason for why they went in the place that they went.
We'll
We can put a photo of this.
Thank you.
Lovely listeners. So whenever we've been talking, I have a box of all different types of buttons, which is actually such a good theme for this, because these are not bought buttons. These are all buttons that have they've either come off like little clothes of Leilana's, or like my clothes, or my mum was like doing the clear out and she had buttons, or someone has said something and I've said, give me those. So ever since, whenever I started as a therapist with young people, there was this thing of like, when you were doing creative work, get buttons or get stones. And buttons, of course, are so much easier to transport around. So I started to just say, well, what buttons have I got anywhere? And I just started to put them all together and to collect them all up. And obviously it's now been over 20 years and there's not like loads of them, but the reason why there's not loads of them is that they all have
connection.
But I cannot say that I remember very many of them.
That was my next
all.
question.
No, it's just not.
Yes.
It's really, really not like that. Interestingly, I might be able to, if I look hard enough at something, it'll have that. But I think that deep down, I am attached to them because they are my buttons. And so it's like, and plus they're part of my therapy kit, and they've been part of my therapy kit since I started, because I remember working with the millennials 20 years ago who are now in their 30s and were then in their teens. And I remember using them, and sometimes I'll just grab them and start playing with them. But it's really fascinating that that's what I've grabbed to play with today, because sometimes I play with clay, sometimes I play with the sand, sometimes I have furry things, sometimes I have fidgets, sometimes I have all sorts of things in my hands, and sometimes I draw, and sometimes I tell you what I'm doing, and other times I don't. But it's interesting because of what we've been talking about today, that this kind of epitomizes that kind of gathering up and taking, and it epitomizes transitional objects. And I used to work in a long time ago, there was quite a forward thinking kind of a partnership that happened between a CAMS practice and the charity that I used to work with. And I did some work with some of those, well, I'm going to say children because they were like young teens. And I would have had my buttons because I had to travel, and sometimes they would take a button away with them, and some of them would bring it back the next time they saw me. So like it was proper transitional object kind of stuff, and it just kind of happened because I had them and I was using them, and I wasn't being like, it would never really happen now with the samplay figures, because I suppose people are aware that, well, someone else might look for that figure the next time they come, or I'd be careful, even if somebody was really attached to a figure, if they really wanted to take it with them, I would have to be thinking, yeah, but what about in another few days' time and somebody else comes and they really like that figure, and it has to be there because it's really important that people have access to the same stuff. So that would be a real quandary. But with the buttons, it didn't bother me. It's just a button. You know, if you want to take a button with you, take a button with you. And if you want to bring it back, fine. But it's really fascinating to me that all of that is caught up in these buttons, and that's what we're talking about. And I started playing with buttons as soon as we came on the call, and they're probably the best example of a transition object that I have here in my office.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm quite excited about that, actually. That's so cool. Yeah. So you need to eat.
I need
to go
watch television,
and watch TV with Lana. So is there anything else before we finish?
Well, I don't think so. I think that was a really lovely conversation of about not just that it had an arc and a theme, but I think is all of the elements are really important to both of us. And it's being writ large right now because I'm moving.
Very exciting.
I am transitioning in one of the biggest ways possible, I guess, in a regular person's life.
One of the most stressful ways, isn't it?
Yes.
I guess it would be nice to talk about the groups a little bit again. So just to say that we're in the process, we're meeting every couple of weeks together to do some planning and get things really concrete in terms of what our offerings will be for the autumn time. And in case you've missed, I put a wee voiceover on the last episode, but or well, it might not be the last episode now, but on an episode, you may or may not have heard that we're going to be running 2 groups in the autumn time, evening time in the UK, and one of them's going to be for autistic partners in mixed neurotype relationships, and the other one is going to be for autistic counsellors. They're both going to be kind of time-limited groups to start with, probably 6 weeks, fortnightly, meeting for a couple of hours
online.
At a time. Online.
And we look forward
if you're
to meeting
interested,
some of you.
if you're interested, send us an email or go on to our groups page of our website, there's a way to sign up for a newsletter, which will keep you. You'll hear about everything there.
That's right.
First.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us, lovely listeners.
Thank you. Yes, we look forward to meeting some of you in the future and hearing from you. Can you leave the house without anything?
Yeah. It's so high on earth to do that. Yes.
We'll speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Thank you for listening to the Autistic License podcast. You can connect with us via Instagram, Facebook at autisticlicense.com or by email at autisticlicense@gmail.com. And we spell license the British way, LICENCE. We also have a thriving Facebook community. Search for Autistic License Shauna and Leo or click on the link in the show notes.